What if we take the concept of a live podcast, but instead amplify it tenfold? That's what we're talking about today with Jeff. Jeff is the founder of Poduty and the News, which is a podcast that is all about live podcast events and how they're taking place across the world while he interviews people to give their opinion about these events. He also has a live theater where you can go and host a live podcast recording. This conversation is all about getting outside of our comfort zone just a smidge if you're someone like me who has social anxiety or maybe doesn't like leaving their house so much. There are so many different strategies that we can implement today to get out into our communities, to network with our listeners, and take that relationship to the next level. Please join me in welcoming Jeff to the podcast. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alesia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hello, Jeff. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. If you could start by telling everyone who you are, what you do, and a bit about your podcasts that you've had over the course of your podcasting journey.
Well, my name's Jeff Revilla. I own a podcast theater. I think this business model is one of the first that I've seen. I've seen other iterations of it, and we'll talk a little bit about that coming up, but it's a unique concept. I think it's a way to bring independent podcasting to the masses. And I do host a couple podcasts. I do one, it's a news show, and you've been a great guest on it. It's the only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. It's named after the theater. We'll get into that too. I also do a trivia show that airs on local television, along with a fun little show called My Guest Tonight, which it's on the back burner as I build up this theater and I build up the news show. But we have a couple options, a couple ways to guide this conversation tonight.
Oh, I love it. So I've been on 2 of your shows, had an absolute blast. You've been on this show before. We'll have the link in the show notes for that for anyone who wants to hear our previous conversation. But what I love about a lot of your business model and a lot of your podcasts is that so much of it has to do with networking, in-person things. And I think that now that we're on, I wouldn't say the other side of COVID, but the other side of COVID, that people are craving more in person and more connection and that deeper one-on-one. And then you've got the additional rise of AI and who is the person behind the mic? Are they actually people behind the mic, or is it a weird AI robot voice in the background? Speaking of, it's getting into everything, right? We homeschool our kids, and one of their recent lessons, it was English, which I feel like English is like the one that you don't have the AI robot talking because it's really hard. The cadence is weird. Everything is just strange. It's not up to human speaking just yet, guys. This is not okay. And so I feel like it's just infiltrating everything. So if we can show up more human, show up more personal. Where did you start with podcasting in this kind of way, this more making connections, networking, wanting to build your network, and then going this more in-person route?
The origins of all this go back to 2015 with a platform that we called Blab. It was blab.im, and some people know about Blab, some people don't, but Blab was this first four-in-the-box live streaming service where you could go live, but Blab's secret power was this community element that within 3 minutes of going live, they would flood your stream with 30 to 50 people. Everybody knew there was a party happening, and they would show up in your room. Back then, when I started a trivia show, and I would go live at, say, 8 o'clock, just having the questions prepared. I didn't have any guests booked, and I needed 8 contestants to do the show when I first started. So I would just show up on a whim, go live, and Blab would deliver me 8 people to play trivia, and we would do a tournament, like a bracket. The 8 would whittle down to 4, whittle down to 2, would whittle down to 1. So we did 4 rounds, and all without scheduling. And
Wow.
Blab gave me this idea that podcasting could be so much more than just a recording in your basement. I was still recording in my basement, but I was recording globally with all these people who were jumping in and out, and you could send commands and make the screen shake and make it snow, and you could send coins and give props, and things were flying around, and it was chaos. And it was early on in 2015 where this idea, this live streaming, this social element really bubbled up to the surface. And what happened is Blab didn't have a way to monetize, and it just crumbled under its own weight. It couldn't keep up with server demands, it couldn't keep up with the volume of people, and it just shut down. One day we were all just wandering around, what do we do now? And there was just wasn't a way to connect people the way that Blab did. And that's the origins of how do I get to the next step? How do I go to places where people want to see podcasts? Because I love
Right.
performing now. I got the bug. I want to do this show in front of people. I want to perform in front of people, meet new people. I want to hang out and have a party. I think podcasting can be a social event. It doesn't have to just be this one-on-one conversation. It can be in the basement of a raging kegger, at a birthday party, at a bar, anywhere that you can get people together. You could probably record a podcast and have a good time, have a great show.
Where did this start for you? So I'm an introvert. I have social anxiety. So the idea of I'm just going to wing it in a very strategic way, right? What you're doing makes a ton of sense. But my brain is like, nope. No, not gonna do it. That sounds a little too scary. I need to know the person. I need to have a little bit of a pre-chat, have the rapport, then do the actual episode, edit it down, then release it. That's how my brain thinks about it. Where did this kind of, I'm gonna do it this way, maybe start for you? Were you like a theater kid or what was that like?
No, I was a skateboarder, punk rock kid. Like, I loved chaos. I loved hopping fences and eluding police and skating on benches and jumping downstairs.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. I loved the chaos, and there was art in chaos. And if you listen to the type of music that I listen to, the indie rock of the 90s, the punk rock, while a lot of people hear noise, there is so much beauty in between all of that chaos. It's controlled, and you're manipulating the sound, and you're doing all these things, but in a way that just sounds like chaos, but there's an art in there. And I'm sure those things influenced me. And I had a skate shop in a skate park back in the early 2000s, and I would pack orders all day. I did mail orders, one of the first like mail order skateboard shops, sold skateboards all over the world, and I'd be there all day on this thing, one of the first color iPods, and you can see it's engraved for 2007 for Father's Day.
That's so cool.
And what I would do is I'd pack orders and I would listen to podcasts. Then I'd take a break and go out in the skate park and skate, come back. But what happened is I'm listening to Marketing Over Coffee. I'm listening to Joseph Jaffe had a podcast back then. I'm listening to the Beancast. I'm listening to all these like classic podcasts that were around about marketing. And I'm getting this world-class education while I'm building this like not a little empire, but a little company to do online e-commerce. And I'm learning all these little tricks, all these little tips. And that was like that catalyst that it is independent. It is free media. It is something that these experts own and they're distributing. And that was very parallel to what skateboarding and punk rock was. Podcasting was this Wild West. The internet in the early 2000s
Yeah.
was this Wild West. It was very counterculture. It wasn't mainstream. It was something that was very DIY. You could own it, you could create it, and it was yours, and nobody could take that away from you. And so if you go evolution of skateboarding, independent, punk rock, independent, having my own store that I'm trying to build and produce my own skateboards, independent. I'm learning about podcasting, independent media. I just follow this path and I'm going to where the people are. You're not controlled by these corporations, by these sponsorships, by this hierarchy that you have to get approval to do things. My whole history is independent, against the grain, counterculture. How can I fit in there? How can I push the boundaries of what can be? And you can do that by taking control of your destiny, your media, your creations, own it, deal with it, and then release it to the world and see what happens. It's yours. You created that. Be proud of it.
Yes. Oh, that's so cool. So, as someone who started listening back in the earlier 2000s when podcasts were first coming out, because I think my first podcast I started listening to was maybe 2014, 2015. So, I was when it was like Google Play had them on there, right? You didn't necessarily have to download them to an iPod. I've also never really been an Apple user, so that wouldn't have worked for me anyway.
Yeah.
But what do you think are some things that have positively changed since then for listeners, for hosts? But then what are some things that you think we could learn from to maybe pull back and do more of? Because I feel, especially with the rise of video and everybody being like, go with the trend, go with the trend. As someone who's, no, I'm going to do my own thing, what are some things that we could pull? So things that have been beneficial, it changes, and then things that we can maybe grab and do things a little different now.
Like so many things, like I already mentioned, the internet was this completely different place in 2002. It was the Wild West. It was like a treasure hunt. You would search for things and go to people's websites, and their websites were the sources of truth. And then you would go through 100 pages. You'd read their posts, their blog posts, and you would just take all this in and find new things, take notes, write stuff down. And it was this amazing go out and find it. But as that progressed, as money came into the internet, we started to get these walled gardens. We started to get these social networks. We started to get these algorithms that are controlling and pushing to us instead of us going out to find the information we want. It's serving to us. And we see that with podcasting too. Podcasting, this beautiful independent form of media, which it's still there. It's still 100% fully independent. You can own your own RSS feed and distribute your own media, but the Spotifys are creeping in. The Netflixes, the Hulus, the Substacks are creeping in, and they're trying to wall this off and keep it onto their platforms. And I just saw today, and this is something I've been talking about with these live events. I saw Gary Vee did a video today. He's like, as we get closer to 2050, 2050 is going to look a lot more like 1850. We're going back to analog. The people are starting to revolt from these digital systems, these walled gardens, this forced algorithm feed that right now you're seeing people go back to physical media. They're buying DVDs again. They're buying CDs again. They're buying LPs are going through the roof for LP sales, for record sales. And people want to own these things. They want to read the jackets and the liner notes and the cassettes. They want to get the extras in the DVDs, sometimes just buttons and stickers and bonuses. And they're getting to hold this tangible media again. And the same thing's happening with events. The same thing's happening with people wanting to get out of the house. They don't want to just sit there and doom scroll and get force fed this information. They don't even know if they want it. They don't even know why they're getting it and why is it so tailored to them. They want to go out and just experience the world. They want to research on their own. They want to go to events with the communities there where people who are like-minded or even have different ideas. They want to just have conversations with people again. And you're seeing this whole movement towards an analog society again, this revolt from this techno-feudalism of this is the land that we own, says the Amazons, the Facebooks, the Googles. You're going to pay rent to us through your time, through the advertising dollars. We don't care. You're on our rented land. And people are really waking up to that in droves and going back to analog. And I think we'll see this resurgence of independent media again. The people will have the power that we'll be able to be these DIY conglomerates on our own because we'll be supporting each other, not worrying about these 7 wealthiest billionaires in the world.
So true.
Hashtag tangent on that.
Yeah. Here for it. Oh, I love it. And as someone who has quite an extensive DVD collection and also quite an extensive book collection, I think I was telling someone today, I'm pretty sure I have around 300 to 400 books myself. And then my kids, if you add in all their books, with them being homeschooled and just the ridiculous number of books that we have, we are also part of Dolly Parton's Imaginarium train thing where they send your kid a book every single month from the time that they're born until they're like 5.
Oh, wow.
And so we've got all those books as well for 2 kids. Library books, like we've got quite an extensive physical collection. And I just saw something relatively local to me. They are a coffee shop that is a coffee shop, bookstore / record store. And I thought that was so interesting, just so cool. And then I saw another one that was a beer and wine and coffee shop. And they also have Lego that you can rent and just do Lego in their coffee bar shop. And I feel like more and more these little pop-up things are happening that is encouraging us to get off of our phones, to get out into the world, to actually have deeper connections with people, which leads me to the incredible thing that you have created now. Tell us more about how this idea evolved. Was it like a aha moment for you of this is going to happen, or was it like a slow evolution as you create this live theater?
Yeah, it's the old punk rock Jeffers again. How do I keep this idea of Blab going, the spirit of Blab, where I love performing podcasts, and we did try Google Hangouts and Appear In and Hop In, and all these other platforms allowed you to do live streaming, but it wasn't like Blab. There wasn't a community behind. You had to bring everything that you needed. So the first iteration of what I built was, I called it theater in my back seat. And it was literally 2 speakers, a mixer, a podium, some chairs, and some mic stands that I could throw in the sedan of my car. And I have the picture of it, that I could take it and just set it up anywhere. Maybe I could be for hire. I already mentioned a raging kegger, perform a podcast in the
Yes.
basement, birthday parties, bar mitzvahs. But I also thought, what if I just took it out to a park? And a lot of those parks have those clamshell amphitheaters, and just set up on the stage. Nobody's ever using them. I could just go
Right.
record a podcast there. Or like alongside a walkway along a river, I could just set up a table and record. I could go anywhere. And it was called like Theater Anywhere was the concept. Like, if I can't have the people come to me, I'm going to go to the people, just set up in the street or at a mall. And I thought that was a lot of fun. And around the same time, a friend of mine opened a coffee shop, and next door he had also like a little retail lot for used cars. And he said, "Hey, let's set this up so that let's do a live show. I'll have a taco truck come in. I'll sell drinks and coffee. They can sell tacos. You can do 2 episodes of your show. We'll record it, and you'll have a live show." I'm like, "Okay, we're onto something here," because now I can do a live podcast. And we had 40 people show up
Wow.
for that first event, and people were so happy. You can't be unhappy with tacos
Right.
and coffee, and he also sold ice cream too, so, like, it was a great time. And I record some episodes. Those are on YouTube if you ever wanna check them out, and you can just watch this thing start to come together where,
Mm.
okay, podcasting can be something so much bigger than just a home recording.
Right.
And that's where I really fell in love with this idea that it could be a community event. It could be a social gathering. It can be a party. We can have good times and still have fun recording audio. And that idea evolved, and we went through some iterations. COVID happened, and during COVID, a TV producer reached out to me and said, "Why don't we start to put that show together? We'll build it for television, but then we can take it out and we can start going to bars and restaurants, and we can set it up. Then we're promoting the local community. We're promoting the local bars. You're doing your show. We're getting television content. You're getting paid, and it's a whole happy ecosystem." And we got as far as we did about 75 episodes that only
Wow.
aired on television, but we never got to the bars or the restaurants. And I was like, all right, I've been talking about this for a while. 2017 was when Blab shut down. And I'm like, this concept of infinite seat theater, if I could go somewhere, record and live stream, then I'm not worried about how many seats I have, because the world is my stage, right? The world is my auditorium. I can fit as many people as I want in there. And that idea for, okay, I could have this little studio space, and what I ended up building has 40 seats, and the chairs are wrapped around the stage. So you feel immersed. You feel part of the show. Like you're only no more than 3 rows away from the stage. But those 40 seats there's cameras that surround the stage. They can broadcast to the world. So that little 1,600 square foot theater with 40 seats theoretically has the same capacity as Madison Square Garden. So now I have this powerful little studio. It's a stage where you can perform live podcasts. People can come in, buy tickets. A lot of times we have shows that come in. We'll put on other people's shows. They bring in catering. They'll do like a meal ticket as part of their ticket package. They bring in
Nice.
beers and drinks, and it's a party, and they're celebrating their shows on my stage, and they're having a great time. That maybe they're celebrating a season 1 wrap party, or they're kicking off season 2. They're having a party and they're celebrating. I'm seeing these things happen. They're propagating across the world now. Like, people are celebrating podcasts in a live environment. And That's really what I wanted to build. I wanted to show people podcasting can be more than just a recording on an MP3 file. You're still going to get that and you'll still distribute that, but getting that can be a lot more fun. It can be a much bigger community moment. It can be a social engagement, and it's a lot of fun. It's hard to explain how much fun live podcasting is, but it's a complete game changer. It's a complete new way to connect the world together, connect your community together. When they say find your tribe, you will find those people who love what you do, and they'll come and support you because they also love what you do too. They love it in the way that they didn't even know they did, because now you're showing them other ways to love and appreciate the topics that you're talking about.
Oh, so good. So I'm curious too, what kinds of connections have helped you get to this point, right? Because you mentioned a few, like a friend who was a business owner. You mentioned the TV network person who came to you and talked to you. You've been in the community for a bit, right? So you probably have some of those connections. But if someone is maybe like me, who is, I'm not new to my community in any sense. I've literally been here for 7 years, but I don't know anyone because I mostly stay home and to myself. But if I were like, okay, I think I might want to put on a live show for my podcast, but I'm not sure how to get started with getting out into the community. What are some things that you did or some recommendations that you might have for someone who's wanting to maybe dip their toe in this concept of in person? Because I really do believe it can be really valuable.
I always tell people, I want you to copy what I'm doing. You're probably not in Pittsburgh listening to this. You probably don't have this type of theater in your backyard. I know because I've done the research. There's not a lot of spaces to do this. So you have to start somewhere. Your own community has advantages and disadvantages. Some of those advantages are the coffee shop down the road from you. They probably have slow times, maybe 2 o'clock on a Wednesday. Maybe even Monday nights are a slow time for them. That's the kind of business you want to approach with. Hey, here's something that I do. I talk about it. I think it aligns a lot with some of the values I see posted on the wall, some of the books that you're selling, some of the records. Those are the same things I like and love. I do this show about X, and we should talk about it because I'd love to do a show here and open those doors, open those conversations, because you could talk about a monetary compensation, but honestly, your first show, I guarantee you'll be so happy if you get a coffee and a scone. Like,
Right.
that is a win. That's more than you've ever made podcasting. If you can do a show on a Monday night, you can bring in 5, 6, 7 people. That coffee shop owner is going to be happy that you brought an extra business. They may bring you back, and then now you've cracked that door open. You got one place. Libraries are a great place. A lot of libraries have media rooms, media centers. A lot of the older libraries, sometimes on the third floor, they have auditoriums upstairs, or they have auditoriums somewhere on campus where they're never being used. And sometimes you can rent them for 50, $60. Or if you're just a member, they'll let you come in and do a show. Look for different places. The bingo halls they may be crowded like crazy on Wednesday night, Thursday through Tuesday, they're sitting empty. So there may be opportunities in those types of places. Even churches have places. They have basements. They have remnant space that they're not using other than maybe Sundays and Wednesdays for Bible study. They have a lot of time where their place isn't being utilized. And a lot of times they'll donate that space, or for a small donation, you could even start doing shows there just to find a space to get your feet wet. Restaurants, bars are other places
Yeah.
too. It really doesn't end. Flea markets. Flea markets, it sounds crazy, but a lot of flea markets have side stages, or you even just pay the $10 to get a spot. Instead of setting up tables, set up your podcast equipment and just
Yeah.
podcast there for a while at a flea market. I think that'd be hilarious. Maybe I might do that this summer. But there are places that take your show live, and you just have to think out of the box. And I was talking to somebody the other day, they were into rescuing cats, and they went to a cat conference where there was like a home and garden show, and then they had a cat section, and they interviewed other rescue agencies. They interviewed other people in the industry. They ended up getting 5 or 6 shows worth of content because they went to
Wow.
the space where their audience already was. They interviewed some of those people, and then they end up getting content. And then they got invited back the following year to perform their podcast. So you have to open those doors and find where your community is and just go where they're at. and they'll take you in.
Oh, that's so good. I love the idea as someone who maybe is okay, that feels like a lot. The library is a great option. My local library, I was looking at maybe doing a podcast workshop for adults because they have podcast kits that you can actually rent at our local library, at the county seat one. And I was talking to the person who's head of the like adult services at the library, and she was saying that the reason that they started putting those kits together was because the older folks in the community wanted like a verbal or oral history of the community, of the history of the town, of the history of the county. And I thought that was so unique and interesting, especially as someone who's more in like the business side of podcasts, to have something like that. So look for places like that where they have resources, like you said, the library. Setting up tables at events, I think, is such a good idea. And yeah, the flea market might be $10. Maybe your more specified event might be
Yeah.
$100, but it could very well be worth it to have bookmarks where you're literally there and you are doing your own little booth, a live recording. People can walk by, look at what you're doing, check it out. Have an on-air sign there. Like, they are so cheap. You can buy them on
Yeah.
Amazon.
If you cut your teeth at a flea market and you find some success, if you can woo a flea market crowd, you can perform anywhere. Honestly, if you can get attention at a flea market where people are going through looking for the quarter deals, and you start to get an audience at a flea market, you could be on the Tonight Show. That's how good you are. You don't even realize that you're holding an audience at a flea market.
Oh, yes. So good. And even if you're maybe because you're doing a live show and your host hat is on and you can't necessarily interact with the audience in the deeper level where you might want to as someone who's maybe hosting a table. Even I had this idea recently thinking about the bookish events that are happening in the near future and the podcasts I have around books. Having a live show where I'm inviting authors who are already there for the event, being able to have that live component where we're recording it in that way, having the microphones set up, and then having bookmarks where the QR code on the back sends them directly to subscribe to the podcast, to check out the podcast, to follow us on social media, all of those things. And I feel like that's such a great, easy way. One, it's a bookish event, bookmarks, everybody wants a bookmark. As I like look at my cup, I've got a huge mug full of bookmarks. It's fine. Everyone needs a new bookmark. And having that QR code can make it super easy to stay present with your guests while people are passing by and snagging those bookmarks and checking you out later. And you can see what that conversion looks like, right? Because again, thinking metrics, is this actually working for us? What do those conversions look like? How many times did it get scanned? Did you see an increase in your downloads or your subscribers? What does that look like? And yeah, I feel like this is such an easy way to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, you start somewhere, you build up those reels, have somebody take some photos of you, have somebody take a little bit of video of you. All of a sudden, now you have 10 posts for social media.
Right.
Hey, look, I was performing my show. And those performances, believe it or not, add credibility way faster than just recording episodes. When you're out there performing and people see that, you see you with an audience, to most people, that weighs a lot more than just what I'm doing right now with me being recorded against a green screen. If I was live on a stage, people understand that resonates with them.
Yeah. And it's not like you're renting out a private jet to pretend that you're like doing your thing. We see a lot of those on the Instagrams and the TikToks, but you're actually really are recording something. And like you said, having a friend there that can take pictures of people being engaged or interested, those high moments where maybe you have 5 people around your table or whatever that looks like can really help. Now, how are you then taking advantage of that live element when you were doing those live shows in person and the ones that you do now? Do you find that like engaging with the audience is good, or how do you navigate the host hat and I have to get through these points with I'm also here to entertain in a sense?
Yeah, every audience is different. Some audiences are like your drunk Uncle Larry that comes in the Christmas day hot, throwing stuff around and, hey, everybody, you're making it rain Like, Larry, calm down here. And some people were Aunt Betty, very conservative. They don't want a lot of eye contact. And you learn to read the room. You learn to play to the people who are paying attention. You try to react off the right people. The audience is like a living being, like
Mhm.
another person. You're just trying to navigate through them. And every audience is different. Some audiences are bought in, full attention, laugh at every joke, want to hear everything you want to say. Other audiences, they're sitting on their phone, like waiting, can I just get up and leave? It varies in a lot. You try to control that, and you find little inspirations, maybe little pockets in the audience of where you can play to. Maybe you'll get a reaction from somebody. You can play to that reaction. And they're just things that you pick up on with over time. But typically, what I say to most people is just have an outline and just have a plan. If you stick to that plan for your 60, 90 minutes and get through it, that's 80% of a successful show right there. Just keeping to your plan. If you get thrown off, if you make a mistake, if you acknowledge those mistakes, if you let them derail you, that becomes a problem faster than an audience that isn't paying attention to you as much. It's you. You can make or break that show. And if you make a mistake, I promise you, nobody knows in that room other than you that you just made a mistake. To everybody else, that's just part of the show. For your first couple times, stick to your outline. Please don't read verbatim like a script.
Right.
Have a plan, stick to that plan, execute it, and get off that stage. And most people will love what you did. As you get better, as you get more comfortable, take in those cues from the audience, take in a question or two, do what you can to keep the show lively, new, keep it fresh, but do it at your level. But you don't need to do anything more than what you planned. That's enough. That's enough to get through your first couple shows.
Oh, that's really good. So for people who are in the Pittsburgh area and are like, I'm coming up on the end of a season, or I'm coming up on 200, 300, 150, who cares?
Uh,
I need to celebrate episodes. Then how can they learn more about your theater, about what you do, your services, how you can support them in this journey? Because one, this is just a taste, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure you talk through this kind of stuff with the hosts, getting them comfortable so that they can bring in the right people, helping them with, all right, here are the best ways to make sure we get these people in the seats. What does that process look like? And then how can people connect with you to learn more?
Super easy. My goal is to take the risk out of the creator's hands. You shouldn't walk in here and think, oh crap, by the time the show's over, I owe this guy $200 because I signed a contract. So I got rid of contracts. It's a handshake deal. We do a show. I'll build you an event page. I'll record the show. I'll produce the show. I'll sell tickets for you. I'll give you back the recording at the end of the night. And then when you're done and everybody clears out, we'll sit down in the back room. I'll show you the ticketing dashboard and we split the door 50-50. You get Zelled the money immediately. I've never had a show not walk out that door with some money in their pocket.
Right.
You will be profitable your first show. That's my guarantee. And if you want to find out more about that, see how crazy this business model is, it's Poduty.com, Poduty.com. Exactly what I just told you is published there. That's my word. That's the model that we operate under. You can see our upcoming events. You can connect to some of my podcasts. You can see what I create whenever I'm not up on stage. And you can see exactly how all this works. And I'd love to share the stage with you. I'd love to put a date on the books with your podcast where you will walk out with no risk and money in your pocket. That's my guarantee to everybody. If you want to learn more about me, Jeff Revilla, REVILLA.com. You can see all me. The websites are branded together. I just redid Jeff Revilla. They look the same. I have a brand now.
Love it. That's
Yeah.
so exciting. And I do want to make sure, especially because people who listen are podcasters, again, your podcast that has to do with podcast news, I think is so incredibly relevant for this audience. That is something that even if they're maybe not local to you, that they can still get tons of value. So tell us again about that one.
Yeah, it's Poduty in the News. It's Poduty and the news. The website's news.poduty.com, which you can get to from the website. And every week I do 2 shows. Every show is 6 stories about people doing live podcasts around the world. So I'm giving you 12 examples every week, 48 examples a month, where 600 examples a year to demonstrate that this is a form of entertainment that people are doing. It is happening in droves. Most people aren't even aware that it's happening. It's happening at conferences, events, theaters, arenas, small clubs, bookstores, malls. People are doing live podcasts everywhere, and I'm showing you 12 examples every week. So if you're interested, I bring on a special guest every week. Usually you get a new perspective. You hear my perspective of the story, plus my guest expertise. They blend in their perspective of the story, and you get a fresh new perspective every week of 6 new stories about live podcasting. It's called Poduty in the News. Find it everywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Awesome. And we'll have links for all of that you mentioned, the live theater, as well as Poduty in the News on the show notes, as well as the YouTube description for anyone who's watching us. Thank you so much, Jeff. One, I think that this is such an incredible business model to be able to support indie authors in a really tangible way, but also get us out of our houses a little bit, which I think the podcast community could benefit from. So thank you so much, Jeff, for what you're doing and for being a guest on the show. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.